I'm PMJ, and I've been trying to work on my productivity as a human, so I've decided to try exploiting others to work through my problems faster.
You're gonna refill the car's gas, and you are gonna hang out with my girlfriend for me.
And now I will make us rich.
That is the art of Dandori that Pikmin 4 is built on. Dandori is a Japanese word that means to be effective at organizing your tasks and completing them in a timely manner. And it's not only a word that sums up Pikmin 4, but it's also a very effective insult. Pikmin 4 is the latest game that you had heard people complain about not coming out for 10 years, and while you pretended to complain with them, you didn't actually care and then didn't buy the game when it came out. But as one of the few who actually cared about the game we were complaining about, I'm here to talk about it today and truly understand what it means to be Dandori.
Will I finally be able to reach the peak of Dandori, or will I fail, procrastinate, and massacre thousands?
Almost everyone knows the story of why fans wanted Pikmin 4 so bad and were always expecting it to come out soon, so I won't spend too much time on it. But Miyamoto said it was almost done in 2015, and now it's been 8 years. What the fuck is wrong with you, Shiggy McGee? This is the guy who's telling us to be Dandori and it took 8 years to get a Pikmin game out? Odds are he was referring to Hey Pikmin, the 3DS game that released in 2017. But that game was the complete opposite of what fans wanted. It was a 2D puzzle platformer in a 3D RTS style series and sold so terribly that no Pikmin fans thought that it was a real Pikmin game.
I love all 3 Pikmin games. I love all 3 Pikmin games. I love all 3 Pikmin games. I love all 3 Pikmin games.
So they all still assume Miyamoto could never have been referring to Hey Pikmin and was referring to the real Pikmin 4 that was surely coming out any day now. But Miyamoto is enthusiastic about every single game that comes out in one of his series. So there's no way he would view Hey Pikmin like us, and he probably does consider it to be on the same level as the other games in the series. But Pikmin fans still successfully tricked themselves and everyone else that we were owed a game for years. So expectations were naturally high going into the big release of the game. And with the high expectations, the game released, and it was time to prove itself to a bunch of fans who thought they were owed a game for 10 years.
I mean, surely it can't be that good, right?
The rescue pup Ochi will also be a helping hound.
A crippled dog!
Pikmin 4 plays just like every other real Pikmin game. Collect all of the designated items using your Pikmin to be as Dandori as possible before the sun goes down in order to either escape the planet, cure world hunger, inflate the economy of an entire planet just so you can erase your own terrible decisions, or defeat Louie. Pikmin 4 primarily copies Pikmin 2, bringing back the caves from that game and the treasure that you get a certain amount of Pokos for. The only difference is, instead of causing inflation with Pokos, you're getting Sparklium from the treasures to power your ship so you can explore new areas and find Olimar, who has been veganified. Both Pikmin 2 and 4 share a lot of other similarities, with many enemies and bosses being the same. And since Pikmin 2 is by far the hardest game in the series, you think this game would be pretty dang hard as well.
But that son of a bitch.
Ochi is a rescue pup from the planet Gia and longtime companion of Shepard, your captain with a surprising amount of Rule 34. But you snatched that bitch right out from under that dumb bitch's nose. Ochi then becomes your companion throughout the whole game, and he is so overpowered. He contributes a lot to your Dandori. He can perform any task a Pikmin can once upgraded properly. He can wrangle the Pikmin all in one place on his back. He can toss every single one of your Pikmin onto an enemy's back while stunning them at the same time. He can pull with the power of 100 Pikmin, can comfort you in your times of need, and he can act as his own captain. He is a very powerful tool. Ochi makes the game so much more interesting though, with so many more ways to be Dandori. And I think this made the designers way more willing to make challenges super difficult. You see, the first 2 Pikmin games can be a little cutthroat when you're a newcomer. Enemies kill Pikmin incredibly fast, enemies frequently surprise you from nowhere, and I can't confirm this, but they definitely feel like they want Pikmin blood more in these 2 games. So in Pikmin 3, they toned down a lot of difficulty, wanting to make it more accessible to more people. Pretty much any enemy that can easily kill your Pikmin was removed or featured very sparingly. Enemies go down way faster, and rock Pikmin can survive pretty much any enemy attack that isn't directly eating them, so you can just use them to take out most of the enemies. While Pikmin 3 was still a great game, it definitely feels like a much more casual adventure compared to Pikmin 1 and 2. However, Ochi's able to find a compromise between both problems. They brought a lot of difficulty back in Pikmin 4, with some of the hardest enemies in the series returning, but Ochi's able to alleviate some of the difficulty just how he alleviates my will to hurt others. The main thing that Ochi can do to alleviate a lot of the difficulty is wrangle all of the Pikmin onto his back, so then you can't lose any Pikmin to negligence. It doesn't seem like a big deal at first, but being able to control where your Pikmin are with 100% certainty is huge when it comes to not losing them.
Same goes for women and children, which is why I have to keep the chains locked.
But you can only do that if Ochi is currently under your control. For casual players, this will be pretty often since they're not thinking about all the ways to be most efficient. But if you're trying to maximize your Dandori, Ochi's going to be doing something most of the time. Ochi is better than a group of Pikmin at most tasks, so sitting on his back all the time will not result in good Dandori. What this means is that Ochi will be away from you most of the time, and you still have to tackle a lot of the challenges with just the captain if you want to be Dandori. It's the best of both worlds. Casuals get the easy experience, and hardcores get to throw their Pikmin into the garbage can repeatedly. You'll still be using Ochi for a lot of boss fights though, since they're often the only thing around for you to do when they appear. But there's still some really difficult boss fights towards the end of the game for the hardcore players and the players who get hard at weird things. All in all, he's the best bitch anyone could ask for, and from Ochi we learned that we need to train the dog for successful Dandori. Ochi may be the best bitch in the game as long as you don't Google Shepherd Rule 34, but he can only be as good as the rest of the game allows him to be. So the game needs interesting areas to explore, and as far as Pikmin areas go, these are all great. Plenty of spots to explore, puzzles to solve, extra ways to interact with environments thanks to Ochi and the new Ice Pikmin, and plenty of ways to lose Pikmin brutally. But that's all standard for Pikmin areas, but we want to look at one level that stands out among all other Pikmin areas: the Hero's Hideaway. Most Pikmin areas still feel like a video game level, especially in games that don't exist. But the Hero's Hideaway is a lived-in house that creates a familiar feeling. There's clutter on the floor, a stove that's been left on for way too long, and bugs loose everywhere in the house. I'm surprised it's taken them this long to come up with a concept like this. It's the only area in the game where I consistently kept the camera at a lower angle, as was initially advertised in the trailer. And there's no humans in this area, so it wasn't for nefarious reasons. It was because it's a completely open area. All other areas in the game are full of walls and structures that prevent you from seeing very far at this new camera angle, except in very specific areas, which are of course the only ones that were shown in the trailer. But in the Hero's Hideaway, you can easily see from one end of the map to the other at a lower camera angle. And it even encourages you to look around the whole map with a unique enemy, Moss. Moss is Olimar's bitch, not to be confused with Olimar's bitch with misogynistic undertones. Moss in this level is trying to stop you from getting to Olimar, since he doesn't want to be unveganified, and he will chase you from anywhere on the map and kidnap your Pikmin to stop you. Because of this, you have to keep your camera at a low angle, because you never know when he's going to wake up and come get your Pikmin unless you're watching him. So in order to avoid losing all your Pikmin at sunset, you have to have a unique gameplay experience. It's the most interesting area in any Pikmin game, and takes advantage of the unique aspects of Pikmin 4 to an amazing level. And from this area, we learned that for successful Dandori, we need to look at things from a different angle. However, the areas themselves are not the only thing that make up the gameplay. In fact, you could argue the most important part of the gameplay of Pikmin 4 is the holes. Caves are the main aspect of Pikmin 4 that was inspired from Pikmin 2. They were originally the main change Pikmin 2 made from Pikmin 1, besides adding criminals. But for some reason, they were removed in Pikmin 3. Probably because caves house some of the most difficult challenges in all of Pikmin, and they wanted Pikmin 3 to be really easy and accessible for all the childish Wii U players. But they were able to bring them back in Pikmin 4 thanks to Ochi and what he does to the difficulty. And now, there are so many more caves in this game than there were in Pikmin 2. Caves add a unique experience to any Pikmin game that they're in, because time passes much slower within a cave. So being Dandori isn't as required. What this means is instead these can have some of the most difficult challenges in all of Pikmin. While you could take it slow, you can still be Dandori so you don't lose the small amount of time you would lose in a cave and end up having some of the hardest challenges ever in any Pikmin game. These challenges include so many things, from large bulbors, machine guns, and the transdimensional being that doesn't exist on our plane of existence but can still manipulate it and can only be dragged back to our plane with purple Pikmin, meaning purple Pikmin have power over the 5th dimension and are probably capable of traveling across the multiverse.
What the fuck?
Each cave has multiple floors, and in Pikmin 4, there are on average much less floors than in Pikmin 2. Which I think is overall a good thing, because you get to a lot of Pikmin 2 floors and just see a mob of enemies to murder and nothing else interesting. But in Pikmin 4, almost every level has something interesting or conveyor belts. And the Pikmin 2 style caves aren't the only thing that the caves can do in this game. There are also the Dandori challenges. There are two major types of Dandori challenges. The regular challenges where you just get as much stuff on the map in the time limit, or the Dandori battle challenges where you defeat veganized Olimar in a battle, collecting the most things to stop him from changing the biology of humans in order to veganize them. Both of these are just as fun as the rest of the game, and it encourages players who play more casually to play in a more efficient way, and gives everyone who plays the base game a preview of Dandori battles. Dandori battles are the successor to two-player battle in Pikmin 2 and bingo battle in Pikmin 3, not to be confused with what my grandpa did to that poor woman after losing bingo.
Why'd you bring a gun to bingo night, Grandpa?
These two modes are still quite different from Dandori battles, since these revolve around collecting specific items. In Pikmin 4, the mode is just about collecting as much stuff as possible before your opponent can. There are a few things that keep the battles more interesting though, being bonus finds, sneak bombs, and sweet sniffers. And despite all of this, it's the only aspect of Pikmin 4 that's worse than the other games to me. This is a purer form of Pikmin competition, since it's just two people being as Dandori as possible with some little things to spice it up or sabotage your opponent. But a grandpa with a gun is just more interesting. These battles are just really basic compared to the other two games. They're still fun, but there's much less variance to a Dandori battle versus a bingo battle. A bingo battle can have all kinds of interesting events and insane moments throughout the whole thing. And while Dandori battles can have similar moments, they're way more straightforward and expected, simply because the nature of bingo battle is much more randomized and goal focused. There's just less customization options to Dandori battles too. It's overall a nitpick, and the battles are still fun, but I just miss the peak of Grandpa's degrading mental health.
Rest in peace, bingo battle. Grandpa had it coming.
But we do learn from Dandori battle that we have to be aggressive to prove that we are Dandori. But back to the main game now. The graphics, of course, look great. Nintendo has mastered how to make this art style that they use in most of their games look stunning. And Pikmin 4 is also able to successfully make all the characters look nice and smooth, while the environments are incredibly detailed and it doesn't feel out of place. It's all nice, plastic, and Mario looking. It does only run at 30 frames per second, which is an unfortunate reality of our modern day gaming landscape that devs get away with this a lot of the time. I wish I didn't, but I choose to overlook it for the sake of Dandori. Now, it may initially seem like I've covered most of the game at this point, but this game has 3 entirely other modes that are mostly separate from the main game. There's Night Expeditions, an Olimar campaign, and Sage Veganism challenges. Starting with the Sage Veganism challenges, they're not as remarkable as the other 2 modes, but it's still super fun. These are some incredibly difficult challenges to get full points on, and some of them are even really difficult to beat with minimum points. It's pretty much just the challenge mode from the previous Pikmin games, but this one comes with rewards for the main game in the form of the purple and white onion. There's 10 challenges, each one being generally harder than the last, while this vegan watches Pikmin brutally die as you fail each time. It's just a really good challenge mode that really forces you to be Dandori to get all of the platinum medals. It is just nice to have more to do with the game of the year, and they at least teach us for Dandori that the vegans might have a point. But the other 2 modes are even better, and one of them even adds stuff to the main game with Night Expeditions. That's right, we're finally old enough to not have a bedtime. In every other Pikmin game, the night is set up to be this time where enemies are everywhere and will eat all of your Pikmin in an instant. So when you initially unlock the doctor and she tells you the only way to cure veganism is to adventure out at night to harvest nutrients from the earth to remind people meat is great, you do start to feel fear about the difficulty. But it is alleviated by the most powerful Pikmin type ever. Glow Pikmin. They can only come out at night, but they can endure any of the elements that other Pikmin can endure and have a unique charge attack that can stun enemies. But the one thing they can't do is drag the water wraiths back into our dimension, which yet again calls into question the true power of fat people. But they are still insanely powerful as a unit. Very interestingly though, besides the charge attack, Glow Pikmin function identically to Bulbmin in Pikmin 2. Bulbmin are these little guys that you enslave after killing their mother in Pikmin 2.
Good old American way.
And Bulbmin are one of the few parts of Pikmin that were not in Pikmin 4. So I wonder if in initial concept stages in the game, Bulbmin were supposed to be used during Night Expeditions. But back to the gameplay. In the Night Expeditions, you have to defend the glowing luminol so you can harvest the meat juice. Sometimes there's even 2 to defend, which are often the more interesting maps. It's an interesting mode that's exciting to play. My only issue is it's a little too easy. Nighttime is hyped up to be this terrible time where Pikmin will die incredibly fast and enemies are everywhere. but I honestly feel like this is pretty manageable and I wouldn't be afraid of being out here with my normal Pikmin. I know it has to be a balanced game, but I wish some of the later missions were just a little bit crazier. But still, having an entire other mode to play to progress in the main campaign is just an amazing part of the game. And it teaches us that to be Dandori, you have to not have a bedtime. The thing is though, all of these modes make sense to the overall game design and why they wanted to add them. But what if they added one of the best modes in the game just because they could?
Like God with gay people.
The Olimar campaign is so fun. It's essentially a remake of the original Pikmin game using Pikmin 4's mechanics and areas, which is a really big change in overall game feel from the main campaign to Olimar campaign. Pikmin 1 and 3 and Pikmin 2 and 4 are obviously very similar games, but the way these two pairs of games feel is completely different. Mostly because in 1 and 3, there is a complete and total failure state if you aren't Dandori enough. And there are definitely fans out there that prefer the Pikmin 1 and 3 formula to the Pikmin 2 and 4 formula. And this mode brings that feeling back from 1 and 3 that we're missing in the main campaign of 4. You have 15 days to collect all the ship parts for Olimar's ship, and you have access to the 3 classic Pikmin types and Moss. You explore the first 4 areas of the game, and you just get to play classic Pikmin. You still have Moss, making things not perfectly classic, but I'd say she still makes the challenges more interesting. But I think the one thing that just makes this mode so amazing is that they never had to do this. The game is perfectly complete without it, but just because they could, they threw the people who preferred Pikmin 1 and 3 a bone with a mode that meets all of their needs. It's just a real testament to how much they cared for this game and wanted it to be the best it could be. You know, Nintendo doesn't always try their best with sequels to games, especially with their lesser recognized series. For all of their big series, it's these amazing, massive releases every time, but with a smaller series, they like to retread ground and generally play it safe or sometimes go way too far out with a new gimmick. And I was afraid Pikmin would fall to the same fate, and it looked like it was heading down that path after the release of Hey Pikmin and Pikmin 3 being a pretty play-it-safe game. I didn't want Pikmin to go down a path I either wasn't interested in or one that was only interested in doing what sold decently in the past. But I feel like they showed that they care for the Pikmin series. Sure, it's not a Breath of the Wild or an Odyssey that completely changes the way a series plays, but it was still an evolution of the gameplay that wasn't afraid to expand on the base gameplay in significant ways. And what I think is honestly a big deal was experimenting with the weirder aspects of the series. Any other series would have forgot stuff like this ever happened. And yet here we are with a game that fully explores what that means. And while the developers could stop caring for the next game, it's just nice to see one of my favorite niche series will get its time in the spotlight. But most importantly, it's taught me to be Dandori.
Now with everything I've learned from Pikmin 4, I was able to make as much money as fast as possible, and all I had to do was stay up past my bedtime.
Now that I'm up past my bedtime, I'll be able to get money super efficiently. It seems that they have a Ring doorbell cam. I'll have to be Dandori to avoid getting spotted.
Use the vegan's advice.
Now, I am unrecognizable thanks to my Dandori.
Take things from a new angle. And then use force to prove I'm Dandori.
It's morning now, and they still won't respond to me, so I don't know what to do.
And now I have all this money that I want to show to you, but I still want this to be able to be considered a joke in a court of law. But even if I am caught, I can just say it came from this YouTube channel, and then you will be responsible for the stolen money instead of me. I never had to use the dog, though. I wonder what that was for.
And you're on tax duty. They never put a dog in jail for tax evasion.